Welcome to A Healthier, Happier You, the people working to make it happen. I'm Evan J. Cholfin from Luxhammer, where we help the brands that help you live healthier. Today, I'm joined by Nancy Kalish, founder and CEO of Rule Breaker Snacks. As a former health journalist turned entrepreneur, Nancy is revolutionizing allergen-free snacking with innovative chickpea-based treats that are now in over 4,000 stores nationwide. Nancy, welcome.
Thanks, Evan. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. So I'm curious, as a health journalist, what made you decide to disrupt the snack industry?
Well, that was actually not my original intent. As a health journalist, I interviewed tons of doctors and nutritionists and dietitians. Oh, so I know exactly what to eat to be healthy. And I have a raging sweet tooth, which I still have. It was really hard for me to find anything that lived up to my health aspirations and really tasted like a real treat to me, and didn't have me running for Oreos, which are like my nemesis. So I originally just got started trying to develop a recipe for something, a good treat. I love brownies, so that I could just eat for myself and that my family would enjoy. So I had heard about brownies made with chickpeas, and I thought, oh, well, chickpeas are healthy. And so I Googled some recipes, and honestly, they were pretty awful. They tasted like beans and they were not good, the original ones, but I kept working on it. I love to cook and bake. And after about a year and a lot of dirty pans, I came up with a pretty good recipe for a brownie that was made with beans, didn't taste like beans. And it was great. And everybody who tasted it said, oh, you should sell these. And I thought to myself, that sounds like a great idea. I had no idea how hard it is to start a food business, but I decided to take the plunge, and here I am 10 years later.
Wow, that's amazing. So why chickpeas? What made you choose this unique ingredient as your base?
Yeah, well, so I've always interested in anything that can add nutrition. So I figure it's really easy here to add things that are good for you sometimes than to worry about the things that are bad for you. So I'm all about adding in, and a lot of so-called healthy cookies and snacks are made with like what I consider nutritionally empty flour. Either there's just regular flour or white rice flour or something. And I really wanted to try to base my stuff on something that would add some value. Chickpeas, it turns out, make great brownies as long as you know how to work with them. You have to do some magic, some natural magic to make sure that they don't taste like beans, because nobody wants a cookie or a brownie that tastes like beans. But once you do that and figure out, the formula, then you're able to create some really great tasting brownies and cookies that have some add value. Now, chickpeas are pretty much a powerhouse: protein, fiber, B vitamins. Plus, they're really good for the environment too, because they're one of these crops that don't need nitrogen-based fertilizers to grow, actually. So no greenhouse gas consequences. So those are just some of the reasons why. Plus, they're very different. Nobody else really has chickpea-based brownies and cookies out there.
That's great. So I'm curious how that kind of, from a product perspective, what gap in the market did you discover that led to Rule Breaker Snacks?
Yeah, like so many people who go into any business or, the food business in particular, I was trying to solve my own problem, right? Which was, like I said, I would go into my local health food store. I live across the street from a massive, terrific health food store. And I would buy stuff hoping to find that one thing that would really satisfy my sweet tooth and also make me not feel badly about eating it. So it started with that. And then, in addition, when I was a health journalist, which I did for about 20 years, I learned all about, dietary restrictions and how there were so many people, especially kids, who had food allergies or suspected allergies. And couldn't eat most stuff and had to become label readers at the age of 5 or 6. And I decided I wanted to make something that everyone could eat, or almost everyone. So our snacks are top 11 allergen free. That means no gluten, no nuts, no soy, no dairy. We're vegan, 100% plant based. I didn't realize how hard that was going to be to make sure every ingredient didn't have any of those things in them, to find a bakery that didn't use any of those allergens in any of their products, so we could be made and packaged in a totally dedicated allergen-free bakery. But I did eventually find all of those things. There are a lot of people out there who have dietary restrictions, and I wanted to make something for everybody, something delicious for everybody.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. So you're now in thousands of stores. What's driving your rapid expansion?
So one of the things is being out there, and partially I think part of it is our branding and our look. When I first started this, which was a while back, things that were healthy were generally in this brown paper packaging, and they looked really healthy, which was not appealing to me. I wanted something that looked like it was going to be fun to eat. So that's why we named it Rule Breaker and had fun, colorful packaging. You can kind of see some of it behind me. I think, you really shouldn't have to sacrifice to eat something that's better for you. So I think that's helping when somebody's in the cookie aisle at Kroger, and we're at all the Krogers, for instance, and they're walking by, you have like a millisecond basically to capture their attention, right? And then they see it, they pick it up, looks interesting. And I think it's 30 million Americans have some kind of food sensitivity or allergy, or think they do. People like need things that are nut free, for instance, because kids can't take stuff with nuts to school in most schools. And so we provide something, we're in the mainstream cookie aisle, but we satisfy a need. Then when they try it, that first time always is the toughest to get a new customer, right? But when we're very well priced, we're very competitively priced. And when they try it and they taste it and they see, oh yeah, my kids are going to eat this. I like it. I want to eat it. And then we get very loyal customers. So that's what's driving it, I think.
That's amazing. So, who are your loyal customers? What eating preferences or dietary restrictions do you serve best?
So we consider them in kind of three buckets. Buckets probably isn't the right word because they overlap. But so, anybody who's plant-based, or not even most people, there are very few true vegans around, really, a small percentage, but a lot of people want to try to eat more plant-based. They've gotten the broad message that it's better for us, better for the planet. So anybody who's trying to eat more plant-based foods. Then, of course, there's people who do have a food sensitivity or buy for somebody who has a food sensitivity, like, not just your family, but if you're having guests, your kids are having play dates, you're having parties, stuff like that. So people with sensitivities, and I want it to be everything. So we're also non-GMO project verified and kosher certified. We have like every certification you could possibly name pretty much. And then there's just people who want to enjoy a cookie. There's nothing wrong with wanting to enjoy a cookie and have it be lower sugar. Our products are sweetened with dates, so it makes them actually pretty sweet, but with many fewer sugar grams, including added sugar grams. They just want something that they can feel better about. They want to have a treat. I totally understand that because I eat a brownie every day and have been known to eat them for breakfast. And and feel okay about it. This is good. I'm enjoying something, and I don't feel like I've blown my health goals for the day. In a perfect world, Evan, maybe people wouldn't ever crave sweets, but they do, and that's fine. And so if you can make a better choice every once in a while and have something that's better for you, that's great. We're trying to provide that better choice.
That's great. Changing topics a little bit, what's been your biggest challenge in growing the business this year?
I think the biggest is honestly is fundraising. We're always fundraising because to run a company and grow a company, you need cash to take advantage of new opportunities. Then from a consumer perspective, I think that we still haven't tapped into all of those potential markets that we will be able to with growth. For instance, we just started distributing to colleges and universities, and almost immediately we got into 25 big colleges and universities. And obviously, there's a big need there in restaurants and convenience stores and on flights in airplanes. And there's just so many different situations where people, especially anybody with a dietary restriction, need something like us. And basically, we have a very small team. Very small, and it's taking our small team and having the bandwidth to tap into all of that and grow.
Yeah, definitely. Um, what would you tell other food entrepreneurs about breaking into retail?
Hmm. I would say to do it very carefully. That's a really interesting and loaded question in a way. So when I started out in brick and mortar. And honestly, if I had to do it over again, I would probably start with direct to consumer online on Amazon or on our own website, which we do now. Retail is great and it gets you noticed. As we talked about that cookie shelf on Kroger, there's nothing like that to, get noticed. However, it's extremely expensive most of the time. So there's a lot of costs that most people don't realize go into it, like ad programs, discounts to the retailer, something called slotting fees, which is literally where you give the retailer money to just be on their shelf before you've sold a single product. As a certified woman-owned business, I've been lucky enough to get out of some of those slotting fees, which can go as high as like $10,000 for every item that is sold at the store. So that helps a little bit, but not every retailer has that kind of program. And it can be very expensive. So my advice would be to not get too excited when a big retailer comes to you and say, "We love your products. We want to really crunch those numbers and to see how long it's going to actually take you to break even and be profitable at that one store." I'm not even talking as a company, but at that particular chain, how long is it going to take you? What are all the real costs? How much does it cost to make your product? All the numbers, you really have to be ready to crunch them. I didn't go to business school, so that was at first really hard for me to do. And I had to kind of force myself. And I'm really glad that I am no longer in fear of spreadsheets, can do them with the best of them. And it really comes in handy because you need to know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as your direct to consumer business, there's obviously costs associated with that too. How is that different?
So there are costs, for instance, at Amazon, and on your own website. But in general, the costs, first of all, are more transparent. Like every time I sell a product on Amazon, I actually know from the moment we sell it, even before, exactly how much it's going to cost me to ship that product and an Amazon fee. So it's pretty straightforward and you can plan ahead. And the margins are generally, even with those fees, they are much, much, much higher, as much as like 30 points higher than they are at retail. So the problem with the retailers, in addition to these costs that we were talking about before, which are all lumped together in something called trade spend, is that you don't really know what those costs are going to be until after you've already incurred them. Now you invoice them for $10,000, let's say, and you get $5,000. And it's because of all these coupons that were redeemed, all of these ad programs and various things. So we're in a lot of stores. I'm a big fan. I'm so proud to be in some of these supermarkets and be able to reach a lot of people that way. But for entrepreneurs, I would just say you really need to go into it, like I said before, with your eyes completely open. And sometimes you might not be profitable at that retailer for a couple of years. And that might be okay, but you should know that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's great advice. So, what would you say are your biggest roadblocks to hitting your growth targets?
So we're still a small company. Um, and it's basically, I don't know whether people want to hear this or not, but it's basically um cash and having the cash to grow. One of the things about the food business is, and CPG in general, is that 4 or 5 months before your products actually hit any shelves, you need to pay for those products. You need to pay, in our case, for ingredients and packaging and production time and, all of those things. And then if you're lucky, you have money left over for marketing and advertising and all of that stuff that boosts sales further. So again, you really have to crunch the numbers and stretch your dollar as far as you can possibly stretch it. And that is a challenge. It's a continuing challenge. And weirdly, when I was first starting out and we were in some health food stores and things were much more low key, it was way easier at the beginning. And as you grow, those issues of making sure you have enough money to grow further and take advantage of some great opportunities, it gets harder as you go on.
Hmm, that's interesting. Why do you think that is?
I think the numbers are bigger. And so right now we are trying to take advantage of a really great private label opportunity at a major retailer. And it will involve going into over 2,000 additional stores, and gearing up for something like that is just very costly. And so the bigger you get or you try to get, the more money it costs, and you have to figure out how you're going to finance that and stay ahead of it. So I think that's it. Growth is expensive. And it's something I didn't truly understand that before I got into this. But believe me, I have learned. So a lot of my job now, it used to be doing things like coming up with new flavors and testing recipes, and I still do that, but a lot of it is also just managing money, fundraising, meeting with investors and all that stuff, which is interesting. And I'm very much a people person, so I actually really enjoy that part of it. But it is very challenging.
Yeah, it sounds like it, especially with the heavy upfront capital investments. It sounds like it's very resource intensive. What makes it difficult to stand out in the market?
Well, it is cookies and snacks, even allergen-free ones. We do have competitors. That's why marketing and advertising, especially top of funnel, new customers is so important. So one of the things that we're lucky enough to have a great marketing person on our team. She's wonderful. Her name is Peggy, and she's also a RD, and that comes in very handy. But she's really been great at using organic social media, growing our following on Instagram, and we're into TikTok. And you have to make sure that you're everywhere that your customers are going to be and reach out to them there. We're also really lucky that we have a lot of influencers who just love our product, and if we send them some cookies, they're happy to, talk about it and post it on social media. And so that's really good. But yeah, I think a little bit about this, Evan, in storytelling and differentiating your brand is really important and difficult to do. So we're constantly iterating.
Yeah, definitely. I'm real curious, how what the next iteration looks like as you're developing your brand?
Well, we have some really cool new flavors coming out, as well as some great new products that we've developed. Unfortunately, I can't tell you too much about those, but we do have some stuff that's in the works that we're launching. One of the things, though, that I can talk about and that we are right in the middle of right now is a package redesign. Our we're redesigning our branding. So I've always struggled. This goes back to the beginning of our conversation. I wanted to be make a product for everybody, right? So we have so many things going on. Top 11 allergen free. What are those 11 allergens? The list of 11 allergens: nut free, school safe, non-GMO, kosher, all that stuff, right? And there's a lot on our packaging. And so what we're trying to determine, especially as a small company that doesn't have access to paid market research the way that a lot of big companies do, we're trying to figure out what is most important to our consumers. What do they really want to see? Like we were talking before about somebody's walking down the cookie aisle. You have a few seconds at most to capture their attention. If there's too much going on, there's too much going on, that's not good. And so we're really trying to figure out what our core messages have to be. One thing, for instance, that we did a while ago is we used to have the word chickpeas on the front of the package. And I we figured out that, first of all, kids do not want to see that when they're handed a cookie. You're like, chickpeas, what's that? So moms or dads might want to see that. It's fine if it's it's the first ingredient in all of our cookies. So you can turn the package over and see it as first on the ingredients list. But that was one call out that we could do without. So we're trying to figure out, what's really important to those target consumers that we discussed before, what's really going to catch their eye. And then they can find out more on the other side of the package if they want, by reading our ingredients list, looking at our nutrition facts, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's great. So, what are your main growth targets for this year?
Well, we really want to grow some of those runway spots that I was talking about. I love being in colleges and universities and reaching those consumers, not only because they need something like us, so they're not binging on total junk all the time, but also because it's a great way of getting new customers that then will stay with you after they graduate from college and start having families of their own. So we really want to grow our online business, again because of the higher margins and the more transparent costs. So on Amazon and online, we're also coming out with a special school brownie and school chocolate chip cookie. So we had to reformulate a little bit because the USDA has certain standards for public schools. What's interesting is that we have some saturated fat in our cookies, and the saturated fat is not the same saturated fat as beef. It's because we're a vegan company, it's plant-based saturated fat, right? But the USDA for schools, for K to 12 standards, doesn't look at that as any different from the saturated fat that comes from beef or pepperoni or whatever. So we needed to reformulate and come up with a school brownie and a school chocolate chip cookie that really tasted great and had a much lower saturated fat. And so we did that, and we're hoping to be in a bunch of school systems as a snack starting in the next school year. So we're really looking forward to that. We've already gotten a lot of interest, especially in school systems in California, out your way, for instance.
Well, it's fantastic and very exciting. So, what would you say needs to be in place to kind of hit these targets?
Well, we're very lucky that recently we moved to a new bakery that has a much bigger capacity, and it does a better job than our previous bakery. One of the things that definitely needs to be in place is capacity, right? So We luckily have a lot of capacity that is untapped yet, so we have room to grow. I think that, in addition to that, we're very, very lucky that during COVID, when we started to have, just like every other company, we started to have some supply chain issues with our suppliers of our ingredients and stuff. We really used that time to work on getting secondary and tertiary suppliers for everything, basically. And everything is made in the USA. So we're made and sourced in the USA. So we're very lucky that the tariff situation is not affecting us right now. And so, you have to kind of set yourself up for success. It's fundraising, it's capacity, it's making sure you can get all of your supplies that you need to make your product well. It's getting all of those things lined up and making sure that they're rock solid, or as rock solid as they can be, because things always go wrong, as I'm sure you know. But making sure that for the most part they're really solid, so that you are able to take advantage of opportunities for growth.
Absolutely. So if we were to have this conversation again in 12 months, what would make you feel it's been a successful year?
Let's see. Well, I would be successful in my fundraising. We would have been able to take advantage of this big growth opportunity that I told you about with a major retailer. And, that we're better known, especially to the people that need us, than we are right now. We're getting there. But I think for me, my biggest, what I've always thought is our biggest challenge as a company, is reaching those potentially loyal customers who don't know about us yet. So when we get a customer, they are really loyal. We have a very, very high repeat purchase rate. So that's great. But there are still a bunch of people out there that don't know about rule breaker snacks, and we want to reach them.
Fantastic. And I hope they do. So that's
Thank
it
you.
for, yeah, of course. That's it for today's episode of A Healthier, Happier You, the people working to make it happen. A huge thank you to Nancy Kalish for
Thank
sharing
you,
her
Evan.
insights. Absolutely. And the amazing work Rule Breaker Snacks is doing to help people live healthier, happier lives. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could benefit. And if you're a brand or business making an impact in health, wellness, or personal care, we'd love to help you grow. Connect with me at luxhammer.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time, stay healthy, stay happy, and keep making a difference.